How y'all doing? I'm Paul Ryan, your host of the Across the Cowboys podcast. If you're new to the show, thank you for joining us. And to our regular listeners, welcome back. With me, as always, is my co-host, the greatest co-host in the world, Mike the Pig Crum. He's kind of here, but not fully here. What's going on, Mike?
As I'm throwing the phone down, Brenden texts. And I'm like, everybody, he
knows better than to text right now.
Yeah, he must. I think because I always post on Snap, like, hey, I'm going on my pod. So people, see it and leave me alone. And it never works out. But I wonder if he saw that and was like, I'm going to text him just to mess with him. I didn't look at it, but I wonder if that's what happened.
Well, I hope he's watching this show. It doesn't look like he is, but, he should be watching this show just so he can be here in spirit, Mike.
Yes, exactly. You would have watched the show.
Absolutely, 1,000%. Well, Mike, where can we find you on Twitter, sir?
At CD Piglet, guys, nice and easy. I got my hair.
And guys, as you can see, Brenden unfortunately cannot be with us here tonight, but make sure to give him a follow on Twitter at Brenden_Smith26. I am Paul Ryan. You can find me on Twitter, at Paul_Ryan15. Well, Mike, our first Sunday without football has come and gone, and we are officially in the NFL offseason. If you create content of any kind or play in any dynasty fantasy football leagues, then the offseason isn't so bad. But after a week to take a step back and reflect on the 2024 season, I'm curious, what are your thoughts on the 2024 season, Mike?
I'm just glad it's over. This season was a nightmare. So Dak gets hurt. The team did nothing in the offseason. Like every fan, you're going to have that hope of like, oh, if everything works out well and things like maybe we could do this. But kind of in the back of the head, all of 2024 was like, this team's just not it. Like they didn't try, It was like they were like, Mike McCarthy, we don't want to pay two coaches. We're just, if a miracle happens, it happens. But we're just trying to get through this year, clear some cap up, figure things out, And I'm just glad it's over. It was like miserable. And then as a Cowboys fan, you're watching like I'm not a fan of Kansas City, so I'm not like, come on, three-peat. But I mean, the other team was the Eagles. So of course I'm like, well, I want this other team to win. And then it's like not even competitive. So it's just, it just sucked. So I'm glad it's over.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. When you kind of look back and you think about the Cowboys offseason, the draft went well, but the dragging on of the CD contract, of the Dak contract, and then not doing anything like signing anybody or, really even upgrading the coaching staff like we've seen this offseason, thank the Lord. But it's kind of funny to put it that way. That you are kind of, I have to agree with you. I'm kind of glad that it's over just because the Cowboys season was so bad.
It was terrible. It's like, this is the worst feeling I've had like within Cowboys Nation of right now is like since, man. And they didn't have the last time I felt like this about Cowboys Nation, they didn't even have social media like Twitter where we all interact. You just even knew. You like everybody knew. Like you could feel it that the team stunk way back when, like Dave Campo years and stuff. And it's like it's miserable, and it just stinks because our GM's so bad. I just don't know if it's going to be better. Like I don't know if they'll even try.
So I mean, clearly you need to see more, but I imagine you're somewhat optimistic about this coaching staff, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't like the process of how they came about the head coach. I think it's idiotic to not interview as many as possible because they're going to be people you're playing against. So getting ideas of what they like to do or their thought process is helpful. But, other than the process, I like the hires, the assistants have all been really like, ooh, let's get that guy. I like that hire. So I've been happy about the coaching staff.
Yeah, just kind of sticking with the Cowboys here. It seemed like everything that could go wrong for them this year, in addition to not having the pathetic offseason that they had, everything that could go wrong did go wrong for them.
Yeah. And then, although I'm beginning to like the idea of the player on the team and like his fit with Schottenheimer and these coaches, but given a fourth for Mingo, and I'm looking at this draft and like this draft doesn't feel like it's going to have a lot of fifths and sixth hit. So maybe they trade up, maybe they trade a fifth for a Cooper Kupp type, something like that. but not having that fourth and kind of forcing you to you have 4 really big needs, and now you only have 3 spots really where you're like, I can fill it with 3 really good players that may hit on their rookie deal. That it's just brutal. You should have given a 6th for Mingo, and to give up a 4th, it makes it harder on the player too, because he's big, he blocks, he's fast, he with the right coaching, the right quarterback and stuff, like he could be a player. But you look at it and you're like, for a 4th, dude, you got to be like, we give up a 5th for Brandon Cooks and Stephon Gilmore.
Yeah.
So it's tough to get a guy and like it's at a big need, and you're like, we got this guy here that we gave a 4th for, and it's like you may get nothing out of him, or he could develop into a plus, but it's just a big price tag.
Yeah, crazy to think, just because he gets drafted in the 2nd round, you haven't seen anything from him. And then you go out and, maybe your 4th doesn't sound like a lot, but when you think about the needs that this team has and what you can do, and even with like day 3 picks, the success that you've had, a 4th round pick I know a 4th round pick is actually a day 2 pick, but you can get a lot, especially in this draft class, with that day 4 pick, man.
It would have been a near top 100 pick. Like you're talking about right up close to top 100. So it's a brutal loss of a pick, man, because that would be the area that I would be looking at running back ideally for me, but day 2's fine. But like a second DT, something like that. What is this? Oh, I hate you. The Sports 78. Stop right now. Stop it.
Shout out to Sports 78. Second time being on the show, back-to-back weeks. We appreciate you tuning in, man. But yeah, hopefully Jerry doesn't see this, man, because he might just go out and do something like this, man. Who knows?
God, he's so bad.
And man, you just talk about the season that Zeke had and bringing him back. The the San Francisco 49ers fiasco, man, with Dowdle being made to be sick, and then they wanted to have Zeke and Dalvin Cook instead of him that game, dude. It's just such a weird season, man. They could just not get out of their own way, and then they couldn't get out of their own way. Then they didn't do anything to help themselves, and then everything that could go bad went bad for them. It was like,
do you understand how bad it is? Like at that point, even though he wasn't getting double-digit carries or 12 carries, he only had 1 game over 12 carries. Rico Dowdle was like top 10 in efficiency running. And we're going against one of the best defenses, and they sit Rico, and then you find out that like Zeke's missing meetings, he's like late, and like to have Rico be sick so you can get Dalvin Cook and Zeke were the same guy at that time. It was don't think they have much left, but hopefully they can have a spark for a game or two, and you're taking out a top 10 efficiency runner at only 12, less than 12 carries a game, but he was still at least something. Hey.
Man, I might sound crazy, but I think with a running game, that San Francisco game is a lot closer than it was. I know that it ended up being like a 3-point game maybe or something like that, but I don't want to say I think we would have won that game, but it would have been a lot more competitive in that 3rd quarter, I feel like.
I know I feel like mentally they kind of know they own us, but with Kittle getting older and Debo probably gone, Trent Williams getting a year older, maybe a little of that goes away, especially after they had such a bad season like we did with injuries and everything.
Yeah.
I would like to beat them once, like just to be like, we're not your bitch.
Man, I feel like we don't get that label removed unless we beat them in the playoffs.
At this point, like just a win, like you got to beat them. This is like they eliminated you, and then they're humiliating you now, like beating you down in games. Like you're not even competitive. Like just win one and then see what happens going forward.
What sucks about that, though, is that that they're probably going to draft well, but then they will also make trades, and then they'll approach the offseason the right way. So it's like we'll never get one over on them, it feels like.
Yeah, they build them in Philadelphia and Detroit build their teams in a better way than Dallas does, especially considering Dallas has kind of missed the last 2 drafts, and they don't supplement misses with free agency like the other teams do, and you just fall so far behind.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's the sport with maybe a more serious comment here, talking about Nick Chubb, maybe adding him via free agency. I don't know about that. I mean, I don't think he looked bad last year recovering from that serious injury, but I just kind of wonder how much that injury has taken out of him and, what he has left in the tank.
Just get me a guy at $4 million. Nick Chubb, Rico Dowdle, whatever, and then we'll draft a guy in the top 100, and that'll be the pairing. Just somebody that's $4.5 million, 2 years, good enough.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't hate the idea of Nick Chubb at the right price. Of course, I wouldn't hate any of those guys like you mentioned at that price. We saw a lot of injuries just even with the Cowboys, but you look at the 2024 season as a whole, was it an anomaly for you, Mike?
It was in terms of NFC injuries. Niners, Detroit, and Dallas just got decimated, and the Eagles just were really, really healthy. Now, they could have walked through. Their team is loaded. They spend double anyone else. Like, they have $400 million in dead money compared to the Niners, the second place, with like $200 million. So they could have walked through people anyway, but they load up their team to kind of make up for their quarterback fits what they do, but he's not an over the top, quarterback guy. And so they build a great team around him and allow him to do what he needs to do. But I think if injuries were more even, I don't know if Philly gets through Detroit, San Francisco. And then we're always a 50-50 NFC East. We typically split. If Dak's healthy, he wins 3 out of 4, so I would like to see what happens if the teams were all healthy. I don't think Dallas belongs in the grouping this year, but they belong in the grouping of injured teams. They definitely got decimated by injury.
Yeah, it just seems like so many unlikely things that were going to happened. And I'm not saying, trying to take anything away from Philly or any other teams that had success this year. But like you said, man, especially just in the NFC, all the injuries that took place there. It did kind of feel like 2024 was a bit of an anomaly. We know that Josh Allen won the MVP award, and a lot of people kind of had mixed feelings about that. I'm not sure how you felt about that, comparing his season to Lamar Jackson's. But to you, who was the best quarterback in 2024?
I would say Josh Allen, and I was okay last year. Like I said, I picked Lamar to be MVP, but I thought Dak had a great case. This year, I picked Josh Allen to be MVP, but I wouldn't have said it was a robbery if Lamar Jackson won. Both, those 2 guys were the 2 guys because it's a QB award. I think if you take Josh Allen and you take out the turnovers, he may be untouchable because talent-wise, he's elite running the ball from quarterback position. He has elite arm. He does more with less, and if he just doesn't turn the ball over, he's the top guy. As much as I like Burrow and Mahomes, I would say Josh Allen.
Likewise, Joe Burrow actually being a pretty close second, man. You think about how bad that atrocious that Bengals defense was and the numbers that he put up, man. Joe Burrow was a close second for me, but I agree with you there. I think Josh Allen did a lot more with a lot less, and he deserved that award this season. We know that Saquon Barkley won Best Offensive Player of the Year over Jamar Chase, so I think should have earned it. What about you? Who do you think was the best offensive player?
Hey, I was Chase also. You win the Triple Crown wide receiver, that's insanity. So I was Jamar Chase.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that, I don't know, it didn't even seem like, if I recall, that he didn't get very many votes, if any, for Offensive Player of the Year. I don't know if I misread that or seeing that he got a very low amount of votes for the season that he had.
Yeah, I think it was Lamar Jackson and Saquon Barkley were the 2 main guys. Derrick Henry got some too.
Yeah, but the last player to win the Triple Crown, man, Cooper Kupp, he won Offensive Player of the Year. So just kind of crazy how they viewed Jamar Chase this season. That being said, the Rams did have a lot more success going on to win the Super Bowl. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it.
I'm sure it did.
Yeah. Had to have. Who's the best defensive player in your eyes? I know Patrick Surtain. We ranked our 5 best players in the NFL, like you, Brendan, and I, early in the season, and Surtain was, I believe, me and Brendan's both was our number ones, if I recall. I don't know if you had him in your top 5 at that time, but do you think he deserved the award?
Sure. I'm a Myles Garrett guy. I think when Aaron Donald left, Myles Garrett became the best player, and if you don't give him Defensive Player of the Award, it's semantics because his team wasn't good, or this and that. But he's the best. He's the best defensive player every year until he has some sort of drop off.
I feel like Jared Verse is the next man up for like the elite defensive player, man.
He looks really good, really good.
I feel like the Rams would be the type of team to go after a Myles Garrett too. To have both of them on the same team would be so disgusting.
Yeah, I agree. I think they would do that.
We shall see. I had a thought the other day about how. I guess this is what it was. Is now that Aaron Rodgers is going to be leaving the Jets, and the rumors of Matthew Stafford being on the trade block. What if Stafford were to go to the Jets and Rodgers and Devontae Adams into the Rams, dude?
As long as we get Cooper Kupp, I'm good with it.
Oh my God, really? Yeah, that'd be pretty scary. It'd be fun. It'd be a fun season for sure, man. The Rams, the Rams with Rodgers and Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams and Sean McVay, man. I'd be interested to see that for sure.
Yeah, will Rodgers run McVay's offense? That's the only
thing. Yeah. Because he had a lot of disagreements with LaFleur when he was in Green Bay, so I feel like him and McVay would probably bump heads too. And
LaFleur's a top 5 play caller. Like Shanahan, Reed, McVay, LaFleur are all in that top 5 grouping.
This season, man, kind of, I don't know what maybe this is the conversation for another day, but as far as Aaron Rodgers' career, these last couple of seasons have somewhat tarnished what's been a pretty good career. I wonder how it will end for him.
Yeah, it's been not great. He went from like second best quarterback of all time to he's really talented, but he won 1 Super Bowl. Green Bay didn't have bad teams. He just kind of played bad in the playoffs. If we're honest, if it wasn't Dallas, he played poorly in the playoffs, so yeah, I don't most talented maybe, but like he didn't, intangibles or whatever, it held him back.
Yeah. I don't know why. I feel like this is Brendan, but he, this person was commenting on the show last week. And Brendan was on the show, but he's sports talking some draft talk here. What do you think about this, Mike?
I have a first round grade on Kenneth Grant. I have no issue if they take him at 12. If you get him in a trade down, you would see my pants on camera right now because there would be something poking up out of them. So
you'd be eating that Red Baron in your birthday suit?
Yes. Yep. you'd have this angle, and I'd be butt ass naked eating a Red Baron.
Oh man, kind of visualize that for the people who are going to be listening to this on audio or just have it playing in the background. I hate that I added this question, but I was looking for a way to transition into some Cowboys talk, but I'll just go ahead and answer it anyway because we're here. But even though he missed 4 games, is Parsons a top 3 defensive player in 2024 for you?
He's right in there. So Garrett, Chris Jones, Patrick Surtain II. Yeah. I think he's in there. I think he's got to be right in that range. I mean, there's other, like Stingley played well. You can go through and nitpick some names in there.
Exactly, yeah.
Jalen Carter has got to be talked about even this early. Special kid for Philly.
Yeah, it seemed like T.J. Watt had a bit of a down year.
Yeah, and T.J. Watt,
for his standards,
he's a very good sack guy. But when you go over like analytics with him, he's not doubled a lot. He's chipped quite a lot. But he doesn't get the pressure rate of other, like he gets more sacks than Micah, but Micah disrupts plays more by the metrics. They have, this isn't like, by eyesight, like they literally track like how much you win your pass rush rep, how much you hit the QB, how much you hurry the QB, how much you knock down the QB.
Yeah.
And why TJ Watt finishes, and that's important, he's not up there with those other guys in terms of those analytic numbers. So I've never had an issue with him winning Defensive Player of the Year. He's been good enough to do it a few times, but I never had him like, I don't consider him like Parsons, Bosa, Garrett. I don't put him in that range with them. I think he's just under.
Yeah. It's kind of going back to the, anomaly of the 2024 season. It seemed like the players who are not necessarily superstars, but like the elites took a step back while the younger guys who were up and coming, like took that next step ahead. So just, how weird the 2024 season was. You're seeing guys like TJ Watt kind of having an off year. And you mentioned all the injuries. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson was looking like he was on his way to Defensive Player of the Year with the season that he was having. You lose him for the year. So, yeah, again, just so strange that the year that 2024 was. Do you think the Cowboys front office will drag out the Parsons contract like they did with Dak and Lamb?
Yeah. I mean, it's what what evidence do we have that they wouldn't? Yeah. I mean, they'll it's what they do. They want to stay in the news, and that means more to them than, they don't want to use free agency, so they can use this as an excuse. Like, well, we couldn't get a deal done with Micah to open up enough space to, to get anybody. It's their MO. So until they show that they're not going to, I'm not going to be like, this time.
Yeah.
Like, no, they do this every damn time.
It's so weird. If they were really good, they'd be in the news all the time. But yeah, they decide not to go that route. It's weird.
Yeah, the CeeDee Lamb one was the one that's, because I can understand their trepidation with Dak being older off an injury. Do we want to reset? Do we want to sign, highest player ever? Tank Lawrence back in the day was injured. He didn't have the over-the-top sack numbers. Let's see it again. But CeeDee Lamb was like easy, like, oh, okay, right in there with Justin Jefferson. You can do the deal 2 years early. It was, and then waiting until like in the middle of training camp, like, what are we doing? It's not like they got anything out of it. They signed the exact deal they could have signed the second the last season was over. Like, it's cemented that like they're not serious about that. They're about the news media and the getting on the start of First Take and all those shows. And so, yeah, I assume that they'll just drag it out like always.
Well, we know that Parsons is kind of showing an ability to make his name in the headlines, I guess, learning from the best, if you will. But, he's been vocal about wanting the front office to get the deal done quickly, add players in free agency, and he's willing to take less money to do so, from what I understand. Could Parsons be the player that gets the front office to change their ways?
Nope.
I was hoping you have a different answer, but yeah, I don't think so either. If they won't do it for Dak or for CD or for their head coach, who they handpicked, I guess they won't do it for anybody. But
if you won't do it for CeeDee Lamb,
yeah.
If the minute the CeeDee Lamb thing happened, it's like, okay, we're fucked.
Yeah, so strange, man. It's just strange. If Parsons were to take less money, would you want re-signing Osa to be a priority?
Man, this is a tough one for me. I don't believe Osa's worth the price tag he's about to get. Now, if he took one more big step, for me, if I'm playing a guy that type of top end money, right?
Yeah,
I got to get at that position. You got to minimum be Tank Lawrence. So what I mean by that is Tank Lawrence is not a sacks guy. And I'm okay with that because he gets pressures, he gets QB hits, he gets hurries and all that. And Osa has all of that. All that is the same. He is Tank at DT. The difference is he's a below average to poor run defender, where Tank is an elite run defender. So if you're not getting the tackles for loss, the sacks, the stuff like that, but you're getting pressures and everything, and you also stop the run, I'm in. But to get a guy that doesn't, he's not a good run player. He just isn't. I mean, we got to be fair about it. He doesn't hold up well versus double teams. He's not great. Like, he doesn't kill one-on-ones. He's good, but he doesn't like, oh, you leave that guy one-on-one. He's breaking the play up. Clearly, because he doesn't get tackles for a loss. So, he doesn't make plays like that. So to be like, oh, yeah, 20 to 25 million for that, Now, here's the issue. What if he takes that step and next year he's a 9 to 12 sack guy? He keeps the same analytics and he's an average run defender. But now he becomes one of those pass rushers. Well, then you're like, damn, I kind of wish I would have signed him. Yeah. But I don't know if I believe he's going to do that. And I don't know if Eberflus's defense will allow that for a guy if you can't play the run. Like Eberflus's defense, your front four needs to be able to play the run. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think I would risk signing Osa long term. Ooh, we're going to be bad.
At 20 million, absolutely not. At 15, it's like, I feel pretty uneasy even the thought of signing him at $12 million a year with his entire body of work, to be totally honest, dude.
Yes, and on projection, you could get me to go 15 to 17. I don't like it, but I'll eat the glass. I'll chew the glass and deal with it.
I could see him like
his projection is 21 and a half, I think, million a year right now.
Yeah, I could see him going to Chicago and looking like he took that next step, but maybe it's just because the players on that defensive line are elevating him and he's getting a lot more opportunities to pass rush and stuff. But on this defensive line, man, paying a guy like that $20 million is not a winning move.
And the thing that scares me is people are always like, well, he never had a one technique next to him. And they're right. He never had a dominant one technique. But he had Micah Parsons and Tank Lawrence. Yeah. And he wasn't getting sacks, tackles for loss. He wasn't making those plays. So it scares me. I won't hate it if they sign him because they don't use money. So it's like, well, we might as well keep our guys. But I feel like this is one of those signings that if you pay him and he stays where he is and you lose Bland over it and you lose Ferguson over it, you're going to be looking back like, damn, man, Diggs' injury. I don't know about Fergie had an off year, but with Dak, he's good and he kind of brings an attitude to the team. And Bland might be your cornerback one because we don't know what Diggs is going to be. And you lost the chance at all that to take a big risk on a big swing on Osa.
Yeah, it was reported earlier today that the Cowboys are considering giving this guy the franchise tag at $23 million a year, dude. That's insane to me.
Here is my thought process with this because they don't spend money. I think what their thought process would be was they can eat the $23 million on the cap, spend low to fill the roster, push Dak and Lamb. That'll be where most of their money will go is Osa. And then they give him another year to see okay, are you going to be that guy? While also having a super deep DT draft where maybe you draft a guy at 44 and in the 6th round.
Yeah.
And you have Justin Rogers and you see what Mozzie does. And at the end of the year, it's like, okay, this 23 is going to come off the cap. He didn't do it. Or he gets 12 sacks. He's great in Eberflus's system. He becomes a better run defender. He becomes better with a better player next to him, whether that's Mozzie improving or your draft pick. Or he just becomes better in a rotation where he gives you the same production, but he does it in 500 snaps instead of almost 800 snaps.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you could decide well, it looks like he's going to be one of those dudes. Let's pay him. Or it's like, you know what? We gave him the shot. He didn't take the step up. Let's let him go and get our comp pick. So I understand that move. But again, it's a move for a team that's not trying to win next year. It's trying to hold itself even and figure out what it's trying to do over the next year or two.
Yeah, there's as the days go on, you just kind of hear more and more reports. This team has continued. I swear it's like a new hole was revealed on this team, as the days pass, man.
I agree.
Can we find another Osa or a player who could potentially be better than Osa in this draft?
Oh, yeah. Graham Falls, Harmon, Mason Graham, DT Michigan. Derek Harmon, DT Oregon. Kenneth Grant, DT Michigan. Tyleik Williams. Oh no, am I going to forget? Was
Ohio
it
State
or Georgia? Is it Ohio
Ohio
State? You're right. It's Ohio
Tyleik,
State.
yeah.
Sorry. And then those guys, I would say, are better DTs. Now, not all of them play the same position as Osa, but I'd rather just line them up and put them at DT than even Osa right now. Yeah. But also there's a Walter Nolan is a guy that I have him lower than most do. He scares me a little bit, but at his best, when you watch his best plays, if that's what he develops into, he could be a monster 3 technique. So there's some dudes this draft that DT is a very rich DT draft.
And I think he's already spoke on it that they can be one of those guys can be found in day 2 or day 3, correct?
At 44, I wouldn't go much lower than 44. I would like to get either Graham Falls or you in the first round you find a way to get Grant or Harmon, and then if whatever trade down whatever you know is best. But if that doesn't work, 44 you take one of those that falls, whether Harmon falls or Grant somehow falls or Williams. One of those guys you got to get by 44. That would be my move.
Can our defensive line afford to lose Osa?
No, in 2025, no, honestly. But it just is what it is. Like that shouldn't be your reason to sign somebody. That's why I try to tell people. A lot of people go, well, we got to get Osa back because what are you going to do? You're going to figure it out because it's worse for your long-term health to sign up. You know, there was one year where we signed Terrence Steele, and it kind of was the same thing. Like, well, what are we going to do at right tackle if we don't have him? And it's like, well, you should have just not spent money and just dealt with it, you know, and found a way to patchwork it instead of giving money. Because now you're sitting there going, we paid good player money to a average player.
Exactly. I'd rather get worse for 1 year than be average for 5, dude. You know
that, and that's so hard for a fan to say because a fan wants to believe they could win this. Hey, we could win. This could be our year, like really. And if you go into it and you lose Osa and Tank and Zach Martin, and you just go, all right, you know, we got to do what we got to do here. We're going to fill a little bit, 1-year contracts, use the draft, you know, sign a couple of names, you know, that are for the future. But basically, we're still in year 2 of a rebuild. People hate that.
You know, I wish that we could like say that we're reloading, but the way we approach the free agency, man, we're in another year for a rebuild.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. If you went out kind of easily, you told me they signed Bobby Wagner, Jordan Lewis, traded for Cooper Kupp, signed Will Hernandez, not a lot of money. Brought back Carl Lawson, brought back Golston, and signed some kind of veteran, decent defensive tackle. Maybe traded for Billings from the Bears, who knows Eberflus, and then went into the draft. I would be like, okay, hit your draft and you got a shot. You know, maybe you go Genty, DT and Savion Williams, and you're like, here we go.
Yeah, Mike, someone wants your attention, buddy.
Oh no, what's that? Oh, it's something. Let me check on my phone. Oh no, I don't see it.
You know, I was like in a fantasy land. I was thinking, man, you know, T. Higgins is going to get franchise tag. Cowboys might tag Osa. I'm like, what if we just traded Osa for T. Higgins? You know, they're both going to be on 1-year deals. Like, how insane would that be, dude?
Oh, you're saying if we tag them, tag Osa. Oh, okay, yeah. Because but we can't really trade him because he's unrestricted free agent. But if he was on the tag and we tagged him for like, I would rather pay T. Higgins than
oh man. Because I feel like, you know, honestly, if T. Higgins would do a lot more for our offense and Osa would do so much more for their defense than T. Higgins really does for their offense and what Osa does for our defense, to be totally honest. I feel like that switch would make those teams so much better.
If only we could get our general manager to understand that it's not the 90s where you need one top wide receiver and a run game. And it's like you need weapons out there. One wide receiver is not going to work against defenses that Philly and San Francisco and Detroit are going to be coming with if they're healthy.
Would you rather re-sign Osa to a long-term deal and tag Bland, or vice versa? I know where you're going with this. It's a pretty easy answer,
I'm all, but and even regardless of what we think of Osa, Bland is an all-pro player. Like,
there's no questions about Bland.
None. Zero. That the questions are about Diggs now only because of his health. But the way I'm looking at it, I'm signing Bland, and I'm, hey, we'll see what happens with Diggs. If there's an out and he comes back and plays, great. But if not, I'm getting out of it. And you have to be able to move on your misses. That's another thing that a lot of the better teams do. Push the money, move on, deal with it, and
cut your losses.
Yeah, and cut your losses. And I'm keeping Bland no matter what. Like, I'm already working on Bland now with Micah. Those are the two guys I'm working on signing.
Yeah. And what's funny, I was thinking this, and this isn't like, I'm not trying to criticize anybody because there's a lot better people who watch the game, understand the game better than I do. But it's so funny to me, like how that one game against the Panthers really elevated Osa to like the discussions that he's like in right now.
And a lot of it, honestly, Paul, a lot of it is if you go to the DT market.
Yeah.
He might be number one because a lot of people, Milton Williams is the other guy, but Milton Williams has Jalen Carter and Jonathan Davis, and he's kind of the third, fourth guy because even their other guy, Oyogo, or whatever his name is, I can't remember, the young kid that's coming in. That's why Philly's like, we don't need to re-sign him. We got three-man rotation that's better than anything other than maybe Deron Bland and Deron Payne and Dexter Lawrence. They're like third guy might be up there with the rest of the guys available in the division. That's how good they are.
Yep. And man, our defensive line, even with Osa, is just not good enough to like afford to pay Osa top of the market money. What could we get for Osa on the trade market, do you think?
If we tagged him and trade, I think it's just good enough to get a comp pick. You have to wait the year.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe somebody gives you a second to be like, because you're like, I can get him for a third. Yeah. So maybe somebody would be like, oh, well, we'll give you a 2 for him. But my guess would be a third round pick, same as if it was a comp.
Man, I'd love to get a third round pick and an extra third round pick in this draft class for Osa would be insane.
Yeah. Well, his analytics are excellent, but I don't know how I think you have to wait a certain amount of time if you tag the player. I think you have to wait a certain amount of time to trade him, but I don't know the deal. We got to get Frankie on that.
I'm curious. What would you, if you had 2 third-round picks, would you go running back, wide receiver? What would you do in this draft?
So my ideal would be DT wide receiver first 2.
Yeah.
And then running back round 3. Mm-hmm. If I had another third round, I would probably in this draft, edge could be good in third round. I don't know if I have a linebacker I like at that point.
For a third rounder, yeah.
Yeah.
What about offensive line?
I don't love this offensive line class either.
Okay.
So I would probably go, let's say, wide receiver, DT, running back, and then I'd look at DB or edge.
Yeah. Double tapping defensive tackle, wouldn't even be a bad idea, I'm not saying with both third round picks, but I'm just saying, you get one in the first, get another one in the third.
I'd have no problem with taking, let's say we traded back, right, from 12 to 20, and we picked up a third. I would have no problem taking Kenneth Grant or Harmon at 20, and then reloading and getting a guy in the third, still like a Saunders. I think Nolan I have him in the third, but he'll probably go into the first. But one of those guys that slip, because this class is gonna be good, so guys might fall. So get a guy in the third, or even a CJ West if he fell, to the fifth. I could work with that too.
Interesting. Would Osa or Jordan Lewis be a bigger loss for our 2025 defense? It's probably likely that we'll lose both. So who do you think would be a bigger loss?
Probably Osa, because I don't know what we have there. At least at cornerback, you could go, all right, I'm going to put Bland is a cornerback 1. You have a stud. And then you got some youth, and Josh Ball will be back, or not Josh Ball.
That'd be crazy to see him playing corner.
For his ACL, who am I thinking about? He was kicking butt, and he was
got injured towards ACL, right? Like the feel good story guy, yeah. I can't remember his name either.
I can't believe it. I can't believe I'm blanking around. Butler?
Yes,
Butler. Yeah, he'll eventually be back. Like, they have bodies they could throw at it. Their only DT right now is Mozzie Smith. Like, and Justin Rogers. Like, it's bad. It's not good.
Off script here. Have you given up already on Case and Carson? And like, it seems like most of Cowboys Nation has.
No, not at all. Okay. His mentality will have me, keep it. But I don't want him starting. Like, he's a day 3 pick. Like, I want him. I want to build on his traits. Right. So I don't really want him playing until year 3. I want him working and being a great depth guy. And if Trayvon Diggs misses 2 games, then you could play him. But I want to see Jordan Lewis in the slot, Deron Bland outside, Diggs healthy outside. Like, I want to see those 3 for the next couple of years. That's what I really want.
Yeah, I don't know if we're ever going to see it, Mike. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But as good as both Lewis and Osa were, they're both replaceable, yeah?
Yes. There'll be a drop-off in next season, because you're talking about these guys know what they're doing here. They've been around. They know the guys. They signals are easier to pick up. You can give somebody a look, this and that. You may be dealing with rookies who you got to dumb down the game plan a little bit. But, yeah, they're not like – Jordan Lewis played like an all-pro, and Osa had one of the better analytical years, but they're not Bland. They're not Parsons. They're not CeeDee Lamb. Like, they're not the guys – you have to bring back. Right.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. We're talking about Trayvon Diggs. Is Trayvon Diggs a player who could be replaced this draft?
I think Bland would be his replacement. He would become the one. Yeah. Replacing Bland, I don't know. I think you got to sign a guy, either Jay Lou or another guy. Otherwise, you're going to be hurting. Like, Diggs or not. Even if Diggs got back and was only out a couple of games early and got back and play, you still need another veteran. Like, you can't go out there with so much youth with this team trying to learn another new defense.
I agree, man. It's kind of crazy at the thought that Trayvon Diggs might actually be a cap casualty, not even be on this team.
Yeah, if they sign, as long as they sign Bland, I totally get it. And I have his jersey. I love Trayvon Diggs. Yeah. But I get it. When you get leg injuries like that, it's worrisome.
And I was listening on 105 through the fan. I mean, Brian Broaddus was talking about how there's a lot of whispers about his work ethic and how he was being coddled and stuff. It's like, you hate to hear that, man, because Trayvon Diggs is a baller.
My thing is, I don't buy what comes out of that room from the con man people. Not that it absolutely could be true, but I don't jump out and buy it because it's coming from the con men. They're it is what it is. I don't believe those people.
Yeah, especially during contract time and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, man. I just feel like Brian Broaddus doesn't ever have bad information, though.
No, I'm not saying that he wasn't told that. I'm saying that maybe people are saying that, and it's like, because the players are like, could have fooled me. There's been multiple players like, Trayvon is, and I trust the players more than or at least minimum equally, I'll buy both sides,
Yeah. Yeah, I can. That's a good point for sure. I hadn't really heard a lot of bad things, publicly outside of just what I'm hearing on the radio. So I haven't really seen players saying anything bad about Trayvon or saying anything good about him. But I definitely, I'm not surprised to hear players talking good about him by any means. If when we part ways with Donovan Wilson, who do you see us using that money on?
I would say at least one of either J-Lou or Golston.
Okay.
Maybe they bring back Carl Lawson, something like that. Maybe one of each of the big ones, like either J-Lou or Golston and Carl Lawson. I think that would work for that money.
Do you have a preference of the two out of Golston and Lewis?
I think we need J-Lou. I think you need J-Lou for about 3 years. Sign him up 3 years, give him 8.5 a year, give him his payday. He's earned it. He's a near all-pro slot corner last year. Like he really should have been. His metrics were outstanding. Put him in there, let him go, and then you only have to worry about what do we do about one spot, the dig spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you were to re-sign J-Lou and then you also sign Bland, then you'd feel a lot better about your secondary than you do currently.
Yeah, agreed.
But man, it'd be really nice just to see at least one season with Diggs, Lewis, and Bland. I'd love to see that.
We'll get to that later.
Are Marquise Bell and Wanye Thomas ready for starting roles if Dallas parts ways with Hooker and Wilson?
If healthy, yes. But Bell had that injury to end the year, so I don't know how he's going to bounce back from that. I do not want to rely on that. I think Wanye Thomas should be a starter in the Eberflus defense, but, we'll see how that goes.
Kind of scary to think about what the secondary could look like.
Yeah, right now it could be Deron Bland, Keon Hall, Carson, Wanye Thomas, and Hooker, I guess.
Yeah. Wow.
It's not
crazy. How big of a priority should the secondary be for Dallas this offseason?
They need to get J-Lou or a vet replacement. I think that sets everything in motion. If they walk into next year and they've got a J-Lou and Bland and a potential of Diggs coming back at some point in the season, you don't feel so bad. Especially Bell's going to be coming back off injury. You have Wanye Thomas. Like, it looks a lot better if you just get that just stick J-Lou in the slot, and you can go into the draft feeling a lot better.
All right, I believe you said this player was your favorite player in the draft, a few months ago. So I'm curious if anything's changed. But who is your favorite secondary player in this draft?
Right now, I like Andrew Makuba, the safety from Texas.
Okay.
I like him because he's interchangeable, so you won't know. Like, if he needs to come up and play strong and hit and tackle, he could do it. He's a big hitter. But he also has the range and speed to go single high and cover each side. Mm-hmm. And he makes plays. Like, he's a playmaker. He's a guy that I seen, like, looking in the 75 to 100 range. And I got him like a day, a round two, like high round two. Like if you were Dallas and you just didn't like your guys and you somehow traded back to like 28 and took Makuba in the first, I'd have zero issue.
Interesting. Okay. All right, Mike, here we are with your views from the sidelines. How do you use I'm going to go this order first. What, if anything, do you learn from players' combine numbers?
It can help you cement your tape watch. So if you think a guy's slow, if you like he looks slow on tape and then he runs slow, you're like, don't like that. You can get an idea as if they've been proved through their training. Like, if somebody comes around and is moving and bending a little bit better than you expect on drills than what you see on tape, it means that, like, there's more, there could be a higher ceiling to them. Like, maybe you can go back and see some snaps where he showed a little bit more bend.
Yeah.
The main thing about the combine is the medicals and interviews. That's the top. How I'm going to get news about, this guy didn't interview well, or this guy interviewed like people are going to love him. And you're going to get other interviews that's like, nah, this didn't go well. And then medicals. You find out Josh Simmons' patella's bad, and he's not going until second, third round when he probably could be a top 15 pick. So those are the two keys of the combine. The rest of the stuff's kind of TV, but you could use it to put a stamp on your tape watching.
How do you use combine performances in your draft evaluation?
Again, it's taking, okay, this guy looks like he runs fast. Does he run fast? Let me see, so it goes into that. It's not you don't let it overdo what you watched on tape, because that's real competition. That's in game. That's you're tired, 7th game of the year. This is running around out of pads and stuff like that. So it's not a huge thing. Medicals and interviews are a huge thing. They're not, but you do want to stamp what you've seen on tape. I have a feeling I lost Paul, so I'm going to look the next thing. It says Travis Hunter. So his next question is about Travis Hunter, and it's about if he only goes as a DB, if he decides like I need to put full in as a DB, does it hurt his draft stock? Not at all for me, because that would be my game plan. My game plan for Travis Hunter would be, we're going to make you a corner. You're going to go there full time. That's going to be the room you're in. But we'll play you 15, 20 snaps in games, maybe on offense, give you a chance to make a few plays because you're so good at it, be a threat out there, but you're going to be a corner. So it wouldn't bother me at all personally. I'm there he is. He's back. I just talked about Travis Hunter, Paul. I don't know if you caught that.
Yeah, I got to hear it. I heard that. I did a mock draft, and Travis Hunter fell all the way to 12. What would you do if that happened in real life?
That would be okay.
That's
look,
just an insanely easy pickup with 12, right?
That would be CeeDee Lamb times at least 5.
Ooh,
because
I couldn't believe it when it happened.
That draft at least had dudes all the way around in it. This draft doesn't have 10 players in like Travis Hunter's range. They have like 3 players in Travis Hunter's range. So for him to fall like that, like he punched a baby in public, like he punched a literal infant baby, like he hung a dog out his second-story window by his leash. Like, he did something horrible for him to fall like that.
I could accept him punching a baby. I can't accept the dog thing, man. I know it's insane as a father, but that's just gross to even visualize.
Yeah, I get it. I've punched a baby. I would never do anything like that.
Still, man, I'll have to find that clip of you talking about pushing a baby in front of a movie.
Well, this is what I tell people. If a 15-year-old dog that is being took to the vet to be put down and a human baby is in front of a bus, I'm grabbing the dog. I don't care about that baby. I am a dog person. Humans suck.
Oh, man. That's hilarious. All right, man. Here we are with prospect review. Excuse me. Jahad Campbell, linebacker out of Alabama. Talk to us, Mike.
I know most about it, so I'm not really worried about I have to have him on here. I know. Here's the thing that's funny about Jahad Campbell. I like him. But what's funny about him is he looks like your prototypical middle linebacker, right? Like he has that look. He's the size, the mass, the speed. He's got that. But when you watch him play, he's great in coverage. Like he's really good in coverage. Excellent zones. If you got to put him one-on-one with a running back, cool. Like he's a guy that would have been a top 15 pick 5 years ago when teams were looking for like, all right, make sure he can cover, and then we'll teach him how to play the run.
Yeah.
It's the run game. Let me go through my notes here. Looks like a linebacker, covers well in man and zone, gets sideline to sideline, big hitter, doesn't miss tackles often. I think his missed tackle percentage was like under 6% last year. It was like 5 something. He's a good time blitzer. He has good timing on his blitzer. He'll add some pass rush at the next level. His weakness is he gets blocked too often. He doesn't like engage his gap. There's like not enough power there for what he looks like he'll come up and stick the gap and stick a fullback in the gap like old school football.
Yeah.
He doesn't really do that. He kind of would like to like make a move and slither past the block, which is okay, but sometimes you need to be able to get in there and get in the gap. And his instincts in the pass game are great in coverage, but they're not there in the run game. Like I would worry about him looking at motion and getting caught seeing stuff and everything. And he's developmental. Like that's what he is. But it's just funny because he worries you now in this draft because how many teams are returning to running the football. Mm-hmm. Whereas if he came out 3 years ago, even 3-4 years ago, people would be like, oh, this is the dude you want. He will erase a tight end. You will not run screens on him. He's great in the screen game. He will take, you want to flare out your running back? He's got him. He'll cover him one-on-one. And then we'll worry about like, hey, we're going to work on your power. You're going to get some peanut butter and you'll get bigger and we'll play the run better. But you can do the main thing that's tough for linebackers to do. And now it's kind of flipped. Now it's like, do I want to take him in the first round and have Eagles offensive line like coming at him and we ain't got no DTs right now? Like it's worrisome a little bit worrisome.
Interesting. Okay. All right. From next week, your prospect preview, Shamar Stewart, edge, Texas A&M.
Shamar Stewart, you guys aren't going to like my preview of him. Hold on. Let me mark him down. Go ahead and go to the next one. I'm going to mark him down.
Not somebody you're very high on, it sounds like.
No. Although he probably works better in Eberflus's system, but I don't think he's as good as Nealon. So that tells you.
Oh, wow. That says a lot, man.
All right. I got him marked down now.
Here we are with one word. I'm kind of stealing this from Foots the King and Zach Wolchuk, a conversation they had, I believe it was on Friday when they were. Did you watch that? Okay, so then you know where this is coming from. One word. If the Cowboys drafted Penn State tight end Tyler Warren at pick 12, I would be blank.
Disappointed. I think that's kind of a luxury pick. I would rather have GT. Exactly. If I'm gonna do a luxury pick there, I'd rather get Genty. I'm not a running back guy, but I think our tight end room with Dak is sufficient, and we have so many holes that I'm like, I'm not worried about like, come on, we got to get another tight end in there. Like,
right?
They're one of the lowest.
Is it the wrong way to view him as a tight end instead of a playmaker?
Yeah.
And do you view him as the playmaker?
I don't want him like we have guys that play in the slot in Turpin and Lamb. And so we need a guy that could be an X, like a Mingo or Flournoy, like they're hoping, or we need to upgrade somewhere. So they're saying, like, I don't want him outside of X all game. Like, he doesn't have that kind of athletic ability. He does for the tight end, like a move around tight end. And he's great in game, which is the difference between him and Ferguson. Ferguson is like a light Warren everywhere else, but on the in line, Warren will block where Ferguson has struggled there. But it's like you're good enough with Ferg. Like Ferg is like, we'll be a good baseline with Dak, and then you can see what he goes up to.
Yeah.
It'd be like a luxury pick. It's, at least with the running back, you ain't got nobody.
Right. Yeah, and I've seen enough from Ferguson where I feel like he's actually a playmaker, not just a guy.
Yeah, I agree. I think with Dak and the offensive line, him not having to help the offensive line most of his time, I think he is a top 8 tight end. I think he would be. Just this year it ended up, he had to help the offensive line a lot. Then he loses his quarterback. and Cooper
He had
Rush
the
just
concussion.
teams. He gets hurt. Yeah, it was a real landslide year, and I expect him to come back and have near 1,000 yards next year.
So initially I put intrigued because I would like to see, what he would do for this offense that Ferguson and Scooney can do, but now I would just say I'm sad because I feel like that would be the end for Ferguson, and I don't want that to come to an end because, man, Ferguson has the swagger that this team desperately needs sometimes.
And I don't want to give up. Like, I know no matter what he does, he's not going to be worth the second round pick.
Yeah.
He's not worth the second round pick that we paid for him. But Schoonmaker's going into year 3, and people shot off Dalton Schultz like he's not even going to make the team. And then he became like a Pro Bowl tight end, like with Dak, So just assuming that, like, Ferguson had a bad year, he sucks. Let's get a tight end round 1. Oh, and Luke Schoonmaker, we made a second. He didn't do enough in his first 2 years. F him. And then you have Brevin Ford. You have the kid Stevens off his injury, and they always find tight ends undrafted and late. So I think tight end room is the least, other than quarterbacks, the least of our worries going into this draft. I'm good. Let's see what we got.
Yeah, and I mean, I know this isn't maybe like the smartest way to think about things, but I don't think tight end is in need of an upgrade on this team either. Even if White Warren is an upgrade, I don't think we need an upgrade from Ferguson or Scooney.
Yeah, I agree. If you're loaded like the Lions and you want to go draft Jamar Gibbs because you're like, hey, we got David Montgomery, but let's get us a playmaker. Then it's like, oh yeah, well, we're loaded everywhere and we'll sign free agents if we have a hole. But on our team, like, I ain't trying to waste that on a damn tight end. I'm good. Let Ferguson play. We're good.
Yeah. Let him cook. All right, here we are with top 5. This is kind of a depressing top 5 because of how the season went, but favorite moments from the 2024 season. Mike, give us number 5.
Bland, J-Lou, and Diggs play one game together on the year. And that one game was like, all right, here we go. We get to see it. And then Diggs went out for the rest of the year. But that moment was like, this could be a future thing. My list is depressing.
Mine, number 5, Jalen Tolbert's game-winning touchdown versus Pittsburgh, man. I felt like that was the game that was going to, send him over the top for the year. Of course, that didn't happen, but that was a good moment, man. That was a fun moment.
I forgot about that, to be fair. Like, I literally text Paul, like, you could think of 5 good moments from this year. Mine are sad, dude. I have a sad. This is Red Baron top 5. All 5 of them.
I thought it would be easy if I didn't make it, if it didn't have to be like all Cowboys moments, if it was just moments from the NFL season. But even then, it's not really that exciting. Number 4 for me, I don't know why I like this so much. I think it's just because I'm a big fan of CJ Stroud, but the Texans upsetting the Chargers in the playoffs. I'm a sucker for upsets, but it was nice to see, them kind of limp in and CJ Stroud kind of flex on them, kind of rewind the clock, if you will, even though it's only his second year.
Yeah, I agree. That was nice. The Texans is going to be a problem if they keep spending with their young quarterback. They're going to be good.
Yeah, for sure. What number 4 for you, Mike?
That overshown play where he tapped the ball and picked it up. I put seeing overshown play. Because we got to see him for a little bit before he, got injured for the year again. But specifically that play, we all were like, oh my God, we got a special one here. And I nailed it with my draft analysis of overshown. And man, I hope he's healthy and I end up still being right.
I don't know what it would look like, especially both coming off of injury, but just thinking about when we get to see Sam Williams, Overshown, Micah, and Nealand all playing together on the line, dude. That's an exciting thought, dude.
With Bland, Diggs, and hopefully J-Lou in the back.
And then Wanye.
Yeah. There's some hope in there, but
there is, yeah.
Thinnest razor thin fucking line you could get.
Yeah, it's so razor thin. It's scary, but it's exciting and scary at the same time. Number 3 on your list, Mike.
Carl Lawson.
Oh, man.
Just how he played. I've always loved Carl Lawson. Me and John Owning have been big time, like, give me Carl Lawson. And seeing him come here and, like, really, I'm like, please bring him back. Like, I really want another year with him on this team. And I hope that he's like, hey, you know, like I'm not going to go out and get a huge contract anywhere. There's no taxes here. I know the facility. I know the other players. Like, just find a way to, you know, you can give him a little raise. It ain't got to be like he's not going to command a ton of money, but you can get him and get him back over here.
Yeah, he's a great depth piece, man.
Yes.
Number 3 for me is, this is probably too low, honestly, but I had number 3 was Kevontae Turpin's muff kickoff return touchdown versus the Washington Commanders. The spin move, man. The unnecessary, what I thought unnecessary spin move turned into like one of the greatest plays I've ever seen.
And it's funny because at the time I was like, God damn it, we're winning, you know, we're gonna get, but really, even if we lost 2 more games, we would have been 10th. And in this draft, like it really, I'd rather them win and go to 12th than 10th. I needed to get like 5th, where it's a chance I could get Carter, Graham, Tet McMillan. You know, those 3. If you're not going to get one of those 3, then I don't care. Win some games.
Right. Yeah, good point there. I didn't think about it that way. What was number 3 for you? Or sorry, you already said number 3. Yeah. Number 2 for me was, this is like the play, probably one of the best plays of the 2024 season. Saquon Barkley's reverse hurdle. Like seeing that live happen, I'm like, what the hell did he just do? Like, did he actually just do that? Was totally insane, dude. I've never seen a move like that.
I hated it because of the uniform it was in, obviously. I can't enjoy anything about them. I hate them.
But just seeing a move that you've never actually seen done before is so insane, dude, especially seeing it live.
It's one of those things that 10 years from now, I'll be like, that Saquon Barkley shit was crazy. But right now, F them.
Yeah, hard to, I dislike the jersey, but Saquon Barkley seems like a genuinely nice guy.
My top 5 list has 1 game of our cornerbacks playing together. It's Red Baron, right?
You went emo this episode, Mike. You went emo this top 5.
This top 5 is depressing.
Well, number 2 on your list.
Mozzie's second half of the season.
I like that, man.
He played like a starting 1 technique. Not a game changer, not a first-round pick, but like you drafted him in the 70s to 100s.
Yeah.
And he came in year 2 and played like he could start for you. And my Lord, do we need it.
Man, just even, Sam Williams, Mozzie, Micah, and Nealon would be, if Mozzie takes that next step, like builds off that second half, that'd be nasty too, dude.
Yeah, that's my thing is I want more. I want him to be what he was the last 8 games of the season, but then add splash. Add some more splash plays, and then we got something.
Kind of curious as to what Eberflus can get out of him, if anything. Like what his coaching style is like, and how do players respond to it?
Yeah, I'll be interested too. I'm nervous about his defense is very can be very vanilla, and that stuff will not work in this modern NFL. Now he switches up coverages more, but his fronts are pretty vanilla. So if our four D linemen are not killing, we're going to be hurting.
Yeah, that's a scary thought. Number 1 on your list.
CeeDee Lamb becoming QB proof.
Oh.
So it don't matter who you throw out there. Rush, he'll dominate in a game with terrible quarterback play. Everyone looking at him because there's no other weapons. It don't matter. Just throw him the ball 10 to 12 times minimum and go from there.
I feel bad for not having all Cowboys on my top 5, but had I thought about it that way, Rico Dowdle would have definitely, his second half of this season would have definitely made my top 5. But number 1 on my list, Jaden Daniels game-winning Hail Mary versus Chicago.
Oh, that's a brutal one. My dad's a Bears fan, so it's hard for me to. That one hurt because it kind of started their spiral. The Bears spiral was from that moment on. Like he kind of lost the coach, and it just went down bad from there. But yeah, I would say I'll up you one, the Jaden Daniels versus Eagles, where they won in the regular season at the end, where he drove them down the last minute and scored. That would be the Jaden Daniels moment for me. He's going to be a problem.
Yeah, so scary. I hate that he's on the Commanders, man, but he's fun to watch play for sure.
Yeah, he is. He's a beast.
Well, I thought we might go under an hour tonight, Mike, but of course we did not. Not an hour and a half, though, so that's progress.
Yeah, we're getting there. I'm going to get it to 45 minutes to an hour. I'm going to get it there. It's my fault. I'm the one that talks the whole time.
Hey, with me, you, and Brenden, I'm not sure we'll ever have a 45-minute episode, so we'll have to see.
You're probably right.
Well, as always, man, I enjoyed the discussion. Before we get you out of here, Mike, where can we find you on Twitter?
At CD Piglet, guys, nice and easy.
I am Paul Ryan. You can find me on Twitter at Paul_Ryan15. We appreciate you joining us, and we will see you guys next week.
It's too bad Brenden wasn't watching.